Nietzsche looked at a suffering world and asked one brutal question. If God is really watching, why hasn't he done anything about it? Here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud in church. Either God can't stop suffering, or he won't. And both of those answers should scare you more than you think. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why Nietzsche thought this question breaks religion wide open, and why almost nobody, not the priests, not the philosophers, not even the smartest men who ever lived, has ever managed to give a real answer to it. Let's get into it. Nietzsche wasn't some angry kid who hated God just to be edgy. He grew up in a house full of faith. His father was a Lutheran pastor. His grandfather was too. Religion wasn't a topic of conversation in his childhood home. It was the air he breathed every single day. And that's exactly why what he did later hit so hard. A man raised inside the church, surrounded by scripture from the moment he could talk, turned around as an adult and pointed straight at its biggest weak spot. Here's the problem he saw, and honestly, it's a problem you've probably felt yourself, even if you never put it into words. Every day, all over the world, people suffer for absolutely no reason at all. A child gets sick and dies before she even learns to talk. A good, honest man works his whole life, treats people right, never cheats anyone, and still ends up broke, alone, and broken. Earthquakes bury entire villages in seconds. Innocent people get caught in wars they never started and never wanted. This isn't rare. This isn't some once-in-a-lifetime tragedy. This is just Tuesday on planet Earth. Now, if you believe in a God who is all-powerful and all-loving at the same time, you've got a serious problem on your hands. Because either that God sees all this pain happening right in front of him and can't fix it, which means he's not really all-powerful after all, or he can fix it and he chooses not to, which means he's not really all-loving after all. You can't have it both ways, no matter how you try to twist the logic. That's the trap. Philosophers actually have a name for this. They call it the problem of evil, and people have been arguing about it for thousands of years. But Nietzsche didn't just give it a fancy academic name and move on. He grabbed it by the throat and made ordinary people actually feel it in their gut. Think about it like this. Imagine you had a friend standing right there watching someone drown in a lake, and he had a life jacket in his hands the entire time. If he just stood there, arms crossed, and did nothing while that person went under, would you call that friend loving? Would you ever trust him again? That's basically the exact question Nietzsche is putting to the whole idea of a caring, all-powerful God. Now here's where a lot of religious folks jump in with an answer they've heard 1,000 times before. Suffering is a test. Suffering builds character. God has a plan we just can't see with our limited human eyes. Sound familiar? Nietzsche heard all of that too, plenty of times, and he wasn't buying a single word of it. Because here's the thing. If you can explain away every single bit of suffering as part of the plan, then the plan can be used to justify literally anything, no matter how horrific. A baby dying of cancer? Part of the plan. A tsunami wiping out an entire coastline in a single morning, killing thousands of people who were just going about their normal lives? Also part of the plan, apparently. At some point, doesn't that excuse stop sounding like genuine faith and start sounding like a convenient way to avoid ever facing the real question? There's a story, and you might have heard some version of it before, about a rabbi who lost his young son. People came to comfort him and told him, it was God's will, you have to accept it. And the rabbi looked at them with tears in his eyes and said something like, if that's God's will, then I want nothing to do with that will. That's the raw, honest human reaction Nietzsche is talking about here. Not polite theology recited from memory, not a comforting Sunday sermon. Just a man standing in front of real, devastating pain, asking real, uncomfortable questions that nobody wants to answer honestly. And this is where Nietzsche takes the whole conversation somewhere most people never expect. He didn't just say, well, maybe God doesn't exist, end of story. That would have been the easy way out, the lazy conclusion. Instead, he said something way more unsettling and, honestly, way more interesting. He said, even if the old idea of God is dead in the minds of modern people, humans still built an entire moral system around him, brick by brick, over thousands of years. We built guilt. We built the idea of sin. We built this whole elaborate story where suffering is somehow deserved or secretly meaningful, all so that we, as a species, wouldn't have to face suffering as what it might actually be, which is random, pointless, cruel, with absolutely no explanation attached to it whatsoever. Think about how deeply uncomfortable that idea actually is once you sit with it for a minute. It's genuinely easier for a lot of people to believe they're being punished for something they did wrong than to believe that bad things just happen for no reason at all. At least punishment makes some kind of sense. At least punishment means somebody, somewhere, is actually in control of the outcome. Nietzsche is saying, deep down, we'd almost rather have a cruel God who's calling the shots than no God at all. Because at least cruelty comes with a reason attached to it. Randomness comes with none. Now here's where the story gets a real gut punch, because Nietzsche himself wasn't writing any of this from some comfortable armchair, sipping tea and theorizing from a safe distance. This man suffered, and he suffered constantly. He dealt with migraines so severe they put him in bed for days at a time, unable to even open his eyes. His eyesight was so bad by his 30s that he could barely read his own handwriting anymore. His stomach problems never let up, not for years. He wasn't some healthy, comfortable academic writing about pain as a fun intellectual puzzle. He was living inside that pain every single day of his adult life. So when he asks, is God powerless or cruel, that's not some clever debate trick designed to win an argument at a dinner party. That's a man in real, constant physical agony demanding an honest answer from the universe itself. And here's a fact a lot of people don't actually know about him. Nietzsche eventually had a full mental breakdown in the streets of Turin, Italy, back in 1889. Some accounts say he saw a horse being whipped brutally by its owner in the street, and he ran over and threw his arms around the horse's neck, sobbing uncontrollably, trying to protect it from any more pain. Whether that exact story is completely accurate or has been embellished a little over the years, one thing is absolutely certain. This was a man who felt suffering, whether animal or human, on a level that most people never let themselves feel. He spent his final 11 years unable to write or think clearly, cared for first by his mother and later by his sister, until he finally died in the year 1900. So when this particular man says suffering proves God is either powerless or cruel, you have to understand this wasn't just an academic exercise scribbled out in some quiet university office. This was deeply, painfully personal. Now let's push this idea a little further, because there's a twist here that most people completely miss. Nietzsche wasn't actually trying to destroy the idea of meaning altogether, even though a lot of people assume that's exactly what he was doing. What he was really doing was clearing the ground for something new. He famously said, God is dead, and people love to quote that one half of the sentence and stop right there, treating it like the whole point. But what he actually meant was, the old explanations we've relied on for thousands of years don't hold up anymore under any real scrutiny. So now what do we do? If we can't lean on it's all part of God's plan to comfort ourselves anymore, then we, as human beings, have to build our own meaning out of the wreckage left behind. We have to find a reason to keep going that doesn't depend on some cosmic scorekeeper making sure everything evens out fairly in the end. He even had a phrase for the kind of person who could actually pull this off. He called it amor fati, a love of fate. Not just gritting your teeth and tolerating your suffering, but actually being able to say yes to your entire life, pain included, without needing anyone to explain why that pain happened in the first place. That's an incredibly high bar to clear. Most of us want an explanation. We want somebody, anybody, to tell us this happened for a reason. Nietzsche is saying, what if there is no reason at all, and you can still find a way to live a full, rich, meaningful life anyway? That's not comfort. That's a genuine challenge. And honestly, it might be one of the hardest ideas in the entire history of philosophy to actually live out in real life. Here's the climax of the whole thing, the part that really sticks with you once you sit with it long enough. If you strip away the idea that suffering is secretly justified, secretly deserved, or secretly part of some grand cosmic design, you're left standing face to face with the world exactly as it actually is. Raw, unexplained. Sometimes beautiful beyond words, sometimes brutal beyond reason, with absolutely no guarantee that the good guy wins in the end or that the innocent gets spared from harm. And Nietzsche's whole challenge to us, the one he's really asking, is this. Can you still choose to live fully, and even say yes to that life, without needing some cosmic referee to make it all fair in the end? That question doesn't have an easy answer, and it never will. And honestly, that's the entire point of asking it. Nietzsche wasn't handing out comfort. He was handing out a mirror and asking us to actually look into it. So where does that leave us? Not with a tidy little bow on top, that's for sure. Nietzsche's whole point was that the old answers, the ones that let us off the hook from really facing suffering head on, simply don't hold up under real pressure anymore. Either God is powerless or God is cruel, or maybe, just maybe, we've been asking the wrong question this entire time, and the real task was never to explain suffering away, but to figure out how to stand up straight and keep walking right in the middle of it. If this got you thinking, you're going to want to see the next video, because it takes this idea even further. Go ahead and click it now.